Matthew Stuckey here from Verity Baptist Church Philippines, just giving you a quick missionary update. And I didn't have one last week, so here's a quick 2-week update. So both last week and this week, we were able to get to 100 salvations, which is kind of our base goal, to get at least 100 salvations. This time of year, you generally have a little bit less in salvations due to the weather, but also it's just a bit more of a downtime. And right now there are some restrictions. For example, we're not really able to go to parks in Pampanga for soul winning. It just kind of depends on where you are in the Philippines. But we were able to get over 100 salvations. I don't normally give stories from soul winning. Maybe I should start doing that. But here's one from Sunday that I thought was kind of interesting. I was preaching the gospel I kind of walked up to this group of kids that ranged from like 7 years old to 10 years old. And when you talk to a group of people that are young, if you have experience with this, with churches, you give them the gospel, but you rarely are going to count them as saved, because you really don't know with like a 7 or an 8-year-old. They can probably pray at the end, but are they paying full attention? Sometimes they can, but oftentimes they don't. But I just kind of walked up, and this person just said, "What is your problem?" And I was just thinking maybe I misunderstood him. Like, was he trying to say something else? I was like, what? He's like, "What is your problem?" And I could tell he was kind of like the, class clown, so to speak, of the group. I said, "Walang problema." I said, and I just said, we're from Verity Baptist Church. And, I preach the gospel in Tagalog for the most part, especially when there are people that are younger. But during the conversation, he was still just kind of yapping and everything. And I just kind of turned to him. And, I just said, ano ang problema mo? What is your problem? I said in Tagalog. And I kind of rebuked him in Tagalog, because I know he's trying to be funny and everything. But he's just, as we would say, very malikot, just, anyways, kind of distracting from the gospel presentation. So I had to kind of do that, though, to be able to talk to everybody. Then I was able to preach to about 15 different kids. But they kind of came in and out, so I didn't count anybody as saved, but a lot of people got to hear the gospel. So that was kind of interesting. But in Pampanga, we kind of found a new area for soul winning, which we're kind of excited about. We've kind of done it for 2 weeks. 1 week was really receptive. We got a lot saved. This past week, it was not super receptive, but it seemed like an area that would be. People are open to talk. It was a good area to take a family, because there's not a lot of traffic, so you can take your kids out soul winning, so that was good. But anyways, in terms of sermons that have been preached recently, I'm going through the book of Psalms on Sundays. You can check that out. And the book of Genesis on Tuesdays. We have a rotating schedule on Wednesdays. This past weekend, I preached against the religion rock band of Hillsong. I preached a sermon, Hillsong Exposed, as they've been covering up a lot of sexual perversion, pedophilia, rape, and a lot of different situations. So you can check that out if you want on our website. And anyways, outside of that, though, we're actually getting involved in a couple new ministries here soon. I don't want to give specific details about it. Things are still kind of underway, but things are going pretty well. Things have been going really well in our ministry in Bicol. They're doing soul winning. They're getting people saved. They're having good attendances there. So we'll talk about that more in the next coming weeks. And we're trying to take that to the next level here. But overall, things are going pretty well. But I will say that things are definitely kind of strict here. It just kind of depends. We had a church member with their family that they had difficulty traveling on the weekend, where basically they were stopped at a checkpoint. They weren't able to get into a jeepney and everything. There's still a restriction against having children in public here in the Philippines. And so they made the decision early on during the pandemic. They said they wanted to take care of the children. So it's illegal for children to go to restaurants or stores or to be out in public. And, in certain areas, kids are able to be out in public because they're running around and everything. But they do prevent it on, jeepneys oftentimes, sometimes tricycles. At checkpoints, they stop to check if you have kids and stuff like that. So it definitely makes it difficult. We've been waiting for a long time for them to loosen that restriction, because that makes it very, very difficult for our families to come to church. It makes it more difficult with soul winning and things like that. So things are definitely very magulo here, very disorganized, very kind of complicated and confusing. So just pray for us about that. But otherwise things are going pretty well. We can't complain. God is definitely blessing us, and just continue to be in prayer for our ministry, that we can have free course to preach the gospel. And we do have a big election coming up in May, is our presidential election. I'm not normally big on elections, and obviously I believe things are in the hands of God. But kind of the big thing we're hoping for is that whoever becomes a new president will just kind of open things up in the economy and just for traveling, and not be so strict with things like vaccines or with children. That is my personal wish and desire. But even if things stay extremely strict, we're still going to preach the gospel. And no matter how many hindrances we have, we're going to do our best. So just continue to be in prayer for our ministry. And thank you, and God bless.